Over there? Your clock is, I think, is 2 minutes slow, but
There you go.
we'll start by the official timepiece over there. Good afternoon and welcome, ladies and gentlemen. This is the Buncombe County Board of Adjustment. Welcome. My name is Jim Lesko. I'll be chairing the meeting today, and I will ask the members to self-introduce themselves.
I'm David Summey. I'm from South Asheville.
James Wilson from South Asheville.
Peggy Mann, Limestone.
Jim Guido, Beaver Dam.
John Yurko, Weaverville.
Lisa Stevens, South Asheville.
Okay, you all received a copy of the December 14th, 2011 meeting minutes. Mm-hmm. Are there any corrections? Hearing none, the minutes will stand as submitted. If you're going to testify today, we would ask you to come forth and be sworn in, because you have to be sworn in to testify. So if you'll come put your hand on the Bible or put your hand on the shoulder of a person who's touching the Bible, we will commit that task.
Mr. Ward needs to go up there and be sworn in. Whoever's speaking to that case needs to be sworn in.
Put your hand on his shoulder, please. Do you solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
All right, you can be seated. Josh, are you ready?
Yes, sir. Mr. Chair, the first case that you have before you today is ZPH 2011-0090. John W. Bell has applied for a variance from Section 78-642, the dimensional requirements of the zoning ordinance, specifically the minimum lot size required in the R2 district. This is for a property located at PIN 0608195473, and that's at 147 Mockingbird Road. I'll reserve some remarks about the technical merits of this case following the public hearing. I do want to mention that we have had a number of calls, both for and against the case. A number of the calls pertain to property that is not the applicant's. There seem to be some land use issues that we're investigating separately, but a number of the calls we received don't have anything to do with Mr. Bell's property, and we are looking into those issues. The remainder of the calls, I would say, one or two that actually pertain to the property, voiced some opposition to additional mobile homes in the area, and that was the pretty much a summary of.
Okay, if you would keep us apprised as we go along with those that are relevant to the case and those who are not, should they arise, we'd appreciate it.
Okay.
Okay. Who is presenting for the? Yeah, please sit down there and give us your names, please.
My name's John Bell. A while back we had a bad storm. A tree came down and took our house out. And we want to upgrade our property and our house. And we've lived here almost 12 years in Swannanoa. We've kept our property pretty well cleaned up since we moved in there. We're not really changing nothing on everything that's there. All we're doing is bringing in a new house to upgrade everything that we own. But we have to comply with the bank, and they want us to split our property so that we can have the mortgage. One section will be for the new house, and the other section will stay where it stands. And we have 2 trailers on there now, but one's going to go, and we're going to have a new home brought in if the county will give us our variance. And we're actually homeless.
You say you're homeless now?
Well, we live with our daughter.
Okay, and can you explain what the variance is that you want?
We want to be able to put a house on our property. We want to cut the property a half an acre on one side, and the remaining 4.6 of an acre goes with the other piece.
But you said you currently already have two,
We have two on there.
okay, and one's not functional anymore?
Yeah, the tree came down, and I never seen a storm like that.
Okay.
It just
It
took a
is-
3-foot tree and just dropped it right down on top of us.
Is the question whether you can divide the property? Is that what the county said, you could not divide the property?
Yeah, we want to,
Right.
all we want to do is so that we can split it and
Right.
have a half acre, and then what will be left over will be .46, which is just shy of another half an acre.
Is 1/2 acre the minimum for R2? Is that,
No.
what is the?
I believe it's 30,000 square feet is the minimum.
Okay, and they're not meeting that standard?
Correct, not to subdivide the property. The lot, as it stands now, is just shy of an acre. So they can't subdivide it into two separate lots. And the biggest issue is that combined with the bank's requirements for real property underneath the newly financed mobile homes.
Just for the board's clarification, you have an approximately a 1 acre lot, and on that 1 acre lot, there are two mobile homes. Okay, those mobile homes are non-conforming uses, which if one of the mobile homes is damaged, they would have the right to replace that mobile home on that property. The issue is that the existing zoning that's in place right now requires, since there's no sewer and water to this property, that there's a minimum lot size of 30,000 square feet. By subdividing this property, they're not going to meet that minimum lot size.
Right.
Okay, so the issue, and it's really, the bank is the one that is requesting in order for them to get financing. So that's really where the issue is. So what you're being asked to do is basically grant a variance for these two lots to be below the minimum lot size.
And previously, there were two on the one, which was in nonconformity, but it's been grandfathered in or whatever?
Exactly. They can replace the mobile home. That's not really
Yes.
the issue. But the issue for them is I don't think that
Make it
the
two
bank's
lots.
going to give them financing if that the new mobile home's not on a separate lot. And I hope I'm making.
Yeah, so in essence, just if I get the clarification in my mind, the hardship we're seeing was introduced because of the bank's requirements.
Correct, and that's a hardship that we're seeing across the board.
Okay.
Yes, I just wanted to make it clear that they do have the right
Right.
to replace that
Replace it.
mobile home
Yeah.
on that property.
Okay.
And to further Kurt's comments, because this may come up in the public comment, this variance wouldn't allow for the installation of any additional mobile homes, only what's already on whatever land that's there, however it's
Right.
subdivided.
And they're not changing footprints or anything along those lines, right?
No, they wouldn't be able to,
Right.
in any other way, become more non-conforming than
Okay.
they already are.
I'm here with Joy Bell. My name's Tom Christ, and if I can add some things to that.
Okay?
One of the things that we are doing, we would be upgrading the property. This is going to be real property if it's allowed to be subdivided. Again, the loan requires that it be real property and that there cannot be two houses on the property that are taken by Wells Fargo, who's the lender in this case. We're upgrading from a single wide to something that is real property where Mr. Bell will have equity, and it's certainly going to be it's certainly an upgrade from what the existing situation was.
Okay.
And again, absent that, he cannot really put practically two houses on that property.
Okay, so essentially, you're just replacing the property with an upgraded.
That's right, and everything is passed. The zoning is passed for the two houses because it's being replaced. The septic's been re-inspected. The adjacent lots, of course, were cut out prior to zoning, and they're from 0.5 to 0.7, some are 0.3, so our lot's going to be in conformity with the area. So we're not really changing anything or the use. But we just, for him to get a home and, with a loan at 4%, as opposed to not having a home, this is something that is required.
All right.
Will the two lots remain the same ownership that it is
Yes,
today?
yes.
Everything will be still,
The usage is not going to change at all, and the ownership is not going to change. And again, everything pertaining to the lot has been approved by the county, as far as the septic and well and everything else on it.
Any further questions of these?
What has the county done in the past in these cases? Is there any precedent for?
I'm not aware of any since we put zoning back into effect. Under the previous zoning ordinance, I know this issue came up and there were variances granted, but none are under this ordinance that I'm aware of.
All right.
And there'll be no problem with sewer for both lots?
No, it's passed for both. We have all the permits in place right now to replace it, and then it's already been inspected and ready to go.
All right. Have you told us everything you want to tell us?
Pretty much.
All right. Is there anyone else that wants to testify in this hearing?
I do.
Okay, please come forward. You can.
Thank you.
What is your name, please?
Kim Green, Green.
Okay,
I've never done this.
that's all right.
I own the land that goes all around Mr. Bell's property, and when I first heard about it, I opposed it, just in my head. And there's been trouble over the years. I'm a local. Many years ago, it was a different place. I decided that my husband and I would go down there because we want to build at some point on that land. And it's very different than it used to be. They've put in a playground. It's well kept. There's no trash. And so once I went down there and saw what they're trying to do, they're just trying to have a home and a family and improve the neighborhood. And so I don't oppose this at all. And I do have the biggest piece of land on that road.
Okay. All right.
Good, I'm done.
Thank you for bringing your views forward. Is there anyone else that would like to testify?
I have a question. Given that the variance is bank-driven, that this is a hardship that's presented because of a bank's requirements, do you have any documentation, any correspondence between you and the bank that confirms that this is their position?
Yeah.
He has an approval letter that states that, yeah.
Is that in a form you can present as evidence today?
I don't have it with me. We don't have it today. It can be emailed, certainly.
Have you received anything that's...
Not from the bank. I am very familiar with this situation, especially pertaining to mobile homes. This is just a new situation within the financial markets, that they are requiring real property to be conveyed
With
for
just
most.
one home, right?
Correct. The banks are looking for something that they can repossess, and if there's a home that's already paid for on the piece of property, it complicates that issue. So this is something that we are seeing in a variety of cases, and it's not the first time we've run into this issue.
Okay. All right. Any further questions of anyone?
And just further to add, if that is something that you want, you can make it a conditional that the variance is conditioned upon a presentation of this document, and then have staff make sure that staff's okay with that document before going forward to establish.
Good idea.
All right. At this time, I'm going to close the public hearing, and we can proceed to action. There's...
Mr. Chair, before you open up the discussion, I will clarify. If you look at the document before you regarding the findings of fact, specifically point 2, it states at the end of that paragraph, the variance applicant will allow the applicant, or the variance application will allow the applicant to split the lot into 2 lots, one being approximately 0.5 acres and one being approximately 0.46 acres. After a pretty extensive staff review, we're somewhat concerned that that 0.46 acres may not allow them to do it once they actually get a surveyor out there. So from a staff perspective, I might recommend that they be allowed up to 0.4 acres just to account for any on-the-ground difficulties they have in completing that survey. And essentially that would still allow the same thing, just for them to split the lot in half, but it would prevent them from having to come back before the board if conditions change slightly on the ground.
So you're saying reword it to being a minimum of 0.4 acres?
Correct. Or just add an additional sentence in there.
No less than.
No less than 0.4, yeah.
So how about one and one being no less than 4 acres?
Okay.
Everyone agree with that minor change?
Instead of approximately.
So the sentence would read, the variance application will allow the applicant to split the lot into two lots, one being approximately 0.5 acres and one being no less than 0.4 acres.
Right.
Okay, fine. I don't think there's any problem with that at all. All right. Ms. Green and Mr. Christ and Mr. Bell, is the information you provided the board true and accurate and the best of your knowledge and belief? Yes. Did you say yes too? All right. Is there a motion to findings of fact?
Mr. Chairman, based on the evidence presented by this board, presented to this board, including the following exhibits: the petitioner's application, the submitted development plan, the GIS maps, and the finding of fact worksheet, I move that this board adopt the following finding of facts, numbers 1 through 6A.
6A, which includes paragraphs A through G, right?
Yes.
A through G.
Okay, is there a second to that motion?
I second.
Okay.
All right, there's been a motion and a second to adopt the findings of fact. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, the motion is carried. Okay, how about a motion to approve or deny?
Chairman, I move that we approve the variance based on the foregoing findings of fact, and for the reasons set forth therein, I move that the requested variance be approved.
Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second it.
Okay, there's been a motion and a second to approve the variance. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Let the minutes show that there was a unanimous approval of the variance. Okay? Done, folks. You can breathe easily now. Okay, Jeff? Josh, I mean.
The next application before you is ZPH 2011-00091. Robert G. Ward has applied for a conditional use permit to site a travel trailer park pursuant to Section 78-677 and 78-678, Paragraph 8 of the zoning ordinance of Buncombe County on portions of tax lots 9689342466, 9689247516, 9689246219, and 9689242316. In your packet, you'll see a copy of the revised survey, so the actual parcel in question, once that survey is carried out, will not actually involve all of those pins. Those were just the pins that were in place at the time the application was filed. Just over my materials. I will note that I have Cynthia Barklow, the floodplain administrator, here to answer any of the board's questions regarding the history of this case. And I'll also provide the board with a letter that details the other requirements that will still remain in place should this conditional use permit be approved. 2 items of clarification. The term travel trailer park is the term to refer to a park that serves as a home for recreational vehicles and park model RVs. And manufactured home park is more than 3 HUD-labeled manufactured homes on a single parcel. And that'll come up as we move through this case. Essentially, I want to clarify that following approval or denial of this conditional use permit, if the permit is approved, they'll still be required to meet any conditions of the Buncombe County Flood Damage Prevention Ordinance. All of the home sites pertaining to plumbing and electrical connections will have to meet the requirements of Buncombe County permits and inspections. I've spoken with Mike Goodson, our stormwater manager. They will have to meet any requirements of the Buncombe County Stormwater Management Ordinance. All development must adhere to the Buncombe County Soil Erosion and Sedimentation Control Ordinance and the Manufactured Home Park Ordinance. The 2010 aerials of the site show the 3 mobile homes on the revised plat. That does not match the tax record, so that'll have to be confirmed on the ground. But they cannot have more than 2 manufactured homes on the site if it's approved as a travel trailer park, and it would terminate any vested rights that exist on that parcel to operate a manufactured home park. And the Buncombe County Fire Marshal reserves the right to make any additional conditions regarding access depending on how the site is developed. Travel trailers are not allowed to stay on the site more than 180 days annually. They're intended to be temporary dwellings for recreational purposes, so this would not allow travel trailers to exist as substitute single-family homes. And I think that concludes everything that I have to present unless Cynthia has any opening remarks.
I have no idea.
I guess I can answer questions at the end.
Okay.
Or in the middle.
Well, let's hear what they have to say. Who's going to be presenting?
I am.
This- Okay, and your name is?
Janice Stanley.
Want to spell that name?
Janice, Janice.
Okay.
Stanley, Stanley.
Ms. Stanley, may I ask, what's your relationship to Mr. Ward?
I'm his niece.
Niece? Okay, thank you. Is Mr. Ward present?
Yes.
Okay.
All right, tell us what you want to do.
He is wanting to do a travel trailer park for some extra income. He has 5 lots right now that could take travel trailer parks.
10 feet.
Or trailers, I'm sorry.
Is there any travel trailers on the site?
One.
Just one.
Josh, what is, you mentioned that there are 3
Visually, we see 3 there.
Yeah, if you
trailers
look
on
at the
park
survey,
now?
up in the northern portion of the property, on the survey, there's 3 dwellings marked modular dwelling units or something along those lines. Yeah, modular dwellings. That's what's shown on the aerials. The tax records only show 1, and it's currently being used as an office. My remarks there would be that you're not allowed to have more than 2 manufactured homes on a site that you have travel trailers.
Okay, so they're in violation now.
They're working to remedy that.
No, but they are in violation at this
Correct.
moment, as far as you know.
The mobile home park, they were in violation of having RVs without having a permitted RV park. And then they had some sheds built onto some manufactured homes, which is in violation of the building code. They've taken down all the sheds. The shed material is stacked up on site the last time I went and saw, so that would have to be removed. Matt Stone, the Director of Building Permits and Inspections, went out there yesterday, and they're out of violation with him. If they were to put the RVs, if this is approved and the RVs go on site, then he would require that the electrical permit be pulled, and then they would have to look at the water and sewer connection. For the floodplain ordinance, the requirements would be that a surveyor indicate on site where the floodway is. And we have the plat that the surveyor put together, but it doesn't indicate where the lots would be. So to get floodplain approval, after this is voted on, they would need to have the surveyor indicate both on the site and in a plat submitted with the flood development permit application where those lots would be. They cannot be in the floodway.
Well, shouldn't we have that information before we try to make a decision on whether you can put the structures on there or not? Or am I missing something here?
It's a
That's not
chicken
our
and the
decision.
egg.
Since this is you are right. It's kind of one of those chicken and the egg questions. I would think that whatever you all decide is purely on a zoning standard as to whether it meets the standards for the issuance of a conditional use permit. So anything that they'd have to do regarding the flood ordinance, regarding the building code, would really be something separate. So it's quite possible that you could grant a conditional use permit, but then them not able to meet some of the other regulations, and that's kind of the risk that someone has in going forward.
Well, it seems to me that can be decided ahead of time, that, you know, to know where the floodplain or whether you can build on it or not. And
The RV park, that would probably be the first thing to decide on, to get approval for the RVs in that location. And then we can work out the details with the surveyor about this is the floodway, this is location. There is an area on those parcels outside the floodway where RVs could be put.
okay. Are you agreeable to putting the RVs outside of the floodway? And if they'll fit?
Put them outside of the floodway.
As a condition?
Yeah.
Floodway's on down below there, and the flood zone is up above.
Excuse me, sir, could you please step up to the table if you're going to speak?
Come up to the table.
And it doesn't necessarily have to be a condition. It's already a condition that they meet any other pertinent state and local ordinances,
Yeah,
which is why they were allowed to proceed forward. In addition, the cost of attempting to survey the sites depends on approval. It is a chicken and an egg thing, but the economics of it is that the applicant would invest a lot of money into something they couldn't get zoning approval for.
So this is the most economical step, is what you're saying?
For a permit application for flood, it's $350, and that's not paying the surveyor for his time to go out there and indicate on site and then submit a plat showing exactly where those lots are.
All right. Any other questions? Okay, is there anyone else that would like to testify in this matter, either for or against? I would. All right, why don't you folks make way for them? And what was your name, sir, before you leave?
Robert Ward Jr.
I'd like to be sworn in. I haven't been sworn in yet.
Okay. Okay. You solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
So help me God.
Okay, please sit down if you're going in front of the mic.
My name is Charles Dennison, Denison. I own a mobile home on the opposite side of the river from Mr. Ward, and my dad owns the property. We went to great lengths to be able to do this, to set this mobile home in there and make sure that everything was done to code. Engineering studies, surveys, flood studies, and the Army Corps of Engineers had to be the final word on it. My concern is that come another or the next flood, that I'm protected. And that's my concern. It appears, I don't know, but it appears that the level on Mr. Ward's side may have been brought up, elevated. I don't know this for fact, but it appears to be. I just want to make sure that I'm protected, me and my dad, his concerns, and that's pretty much it. That's what I have to. That's my concern.
My name's Doug Brock, and I own several parcels adjoining and nearby the property in question in the Davidson Hill subdivision, which several members of the owners in there have asked me to come and represent our interest. I guess, first of all, I had a few questions, and I'm not sure whom to direct them to. But the first question would be, it's my understanding that 2 entrances would be required, and as far as I understood, there was just one road going in, a dead-end road.
Stop right there. Josh, can you tell us that?
I think that, yeah, you can answer these things.
That's not my interpretation of the zoning ordinance, but if you'll give me a few minutes to check while we continue to move forward in the process, we'll provide a clear answer on that.
Okay. Fine. Okay. Continue, please.
Additional concerns are we looking to add more units than are currently there? Is there a limit to the number of RVs? Is that dictated by the space allowed, or are we just trying to put it into compliance to what it has been? That seems to be a major question for me.
On the site plan, if you'll look at the site plan, there are 9 spaces depicted as being drawn on the site plan. My interpretation, unless it's changed within the board's finding of fact, is those 9 spaces are what's being requested for permitting today. So there would be a total of 9 RV spaces permitted on that site.
2 possible structures on each one?
No, an RV space would just be
one RV.
One RV, correct.
Okay. Does that answer your question?
So this variance of conditional use would specify the number of units that they could have?
It would be tied to the site plan.
Makes sense.
And we can advise the board that they somehow mention that in their finding of fact when they get to that point, should they choose to.
Okay, we're talking
Is there a
about the
way they
9.
could see? Is there a way they could see this?
Correct.
To help
yes.
them answer their questions?
Yes. And I will just say that given the mobile nature of an RV, these may not be the exact settings, especially given the floodway concerns. But this indicates that
So these 9 spaces I'm seeing that appear hand-drawn on here, there are RVs on these spaces now?
no, not to my knowledge.
So we are talking about adding
Like I
RVs.
said, it would be 9 spaces on the site.
But I'm confused as to where the 9 came from. Are they 9 spaces that have been there prior?
Yeah, where's your-
Whether they exist prior or not, they'll be permitted for 9 spaces total on the piece of property.
That's what they're asking.
The question is, where's the origination of the site plan? How did that happen?
That was drawn by the applicant and submitted with
Okay.
the applicant's materials.
Okay.
you mentioned an office being on the property already, and it's my understanding that there's a commercial operation already there that involves a fishing operation that has speakers that are broadcast throughout the area and are heard very well in the subdivision adjoining that I'm representing, and so what our real concern about this is that this is all of a sudden going to turn into a major commercial operation, and that it's going to grow into more noise and more people, and basically become a commercial operation in a residential subdivision, a residential area. So it's my position that I object to it.
Just to answer the question about the roads and the two accesses, there are no road standards in the conditional use section of the zoning ordinance. The fire marshal, when he approves something, can require road standards as part of the fire prevention ordinance. So, but from my knowledge, he has not indicated to them that they need two accesses.
Once again, my concern is that we're not really getting a conditional use request. In my view, we're getting a change of zoning request from conditional use of R3, I think the zoning is now, to some sort of commercial operation. Allowed as a condition.
It's allowed here.
It's allowed with the issuance of a conditional use permit.
I understand that, but it's my position that what's been going on there has already been commercial, and now we're going to add to that and turn it into a commercial park similar to what the KOA campground has nearby. So that's the reason for my objection.
And I will state for the record that this site has been in operation for quite some time, at least to the best of my knowledge. So anything that was occurring on the site prior to December 1st, 2009 is a non-conforming use under our ordinance.
It's an existing non-conforming use.
Correct.
Yeah, but today, what they're doing is conforming, to the best of your knowledge.
With respect to the travel trailer park request, that request, they have the ability to submit that under R3 zoning as a conditional use.
All right. Any other questions of these gentlemen?
I think there's one other person.
Yeah, and I'm going to. Is there anyone else that would like to testify? Please come forward. If you gentlemen would move.
Thank you. My name is Doug Thigpen, Thigpen.
Okay.
My home is at 198 Davidson Road. And I've lived there for 27 years, and I can attest to a lot of what I've heard here today, which is Josh said that it's been an ongoing matter, the fishing lake. I'm not necessarily here to oppose the conditional use permit, but I certainly would want to make sure that some reasonable conditions are imposed. And I'll tell you a quick story. Some years ago, I woke up at 3 a.m. on a Sunday morning, because a loudspeaker was going louder than anything I've ever heard. And I woke up and looked out the window, and I saw more light than as much light as I've seen since the last time I went to an Atlanta Braves game, and it was coming from Ward's Lake. Now, I'm happy to say that that's not occurred in many years, so thank you for that. But maybe I just sleep better, I don't know. But I don't want to go back to those bad old days. So what I am asking is, if you do approve the conditional use permit, that you certainly impose some reasonable limitations on the, here's what the statute, the ordinance says: noise, glare, and hours of operation. I just don't think people in the neighborhood should be awakened at 3 a.m. with a public address system and lighting system that sounds like a professional sporting operation. And I'm aware that that's not operated in connection with the travel trailers. It's operated in connection with the fishing derbies that go on there at Ward's Lake. And of course, that will be a part of the travel trailer park, and it will be a big part of the attraction of it.
Well, are we talking here about a matter of enforcement of existing law, if you will, as far as noise, light, et cetera?
The conditional use permit does ask that some of that be addressed,
Yeah.
but noise that is unreasonable for the context of the site would be enforced under the county's noise ordinance, which is enforced by the sheriff's department.
Okay, how about light? Spillover?
Light spillover could be conditions that were set by the board. The county does not yet have specific lighting ordinance standards.
Well, and I will go on the record saying that it hasn't happened in at least probably 10 years, but I sure don't want to go back to those days.
Okay, that's a reasonable request.
Just some reasonable limitations on the light, the glare of the lights, the noise, and the hours of operation of what will be an all-in-one operation.
And looking at the findings of fact, which was derived from the applicant's answers, there will be no signs or extra lighting installed associated with this conditional use permit, so the applicant would be held to that standard. Not to say they couldn't put extra lighting on the site for other purposes, because like I said, the county does not have a lighting standards ordinance, but they couldn't put any lighting directly pertaining to this conditional use permit, so no street lights over the spaces or anything of that nature.
All right. Any more, Mr.?
That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Okay.
Before you step down, could you show me on this map where your property is? Okay. And Mr. Dennison, could you also show us where your property is on this?
Yes, I have it highlighted.
Let's see here. So you're right here.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay. All right. Thank you.
Mr. Dennison,
And-
could you show down here? Oh, okay. So you're across the river right here.
Right across.
Is it pretty loud?
Okay. All right. Thank you, sir.
I can see down here, yeah. That's your property, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Right next to the fire department.
I don't think so, yeah.
You could just leave that either with us.
No, leave that over with there. Once you present something,
What is
it's
that?
ours.
Oh, okay, well, I think they're establishing on a map where everybody's location
Yeah.
is, so we probably want to document that with the speakers.
Okay. Has everyone presented their information here? Okay. Just a moment, please.
Hold on, man.
Mr. Thickman, are you finished?
I'm pretty much finished.
Okay. And you are?
My name is Andrew Bells, and I'm a resident on Lily Hill Road, a new resident. And I'm just asking for a little more clarification. It sounds to me in the debate that the choice that the applicants are making is either to remain as is or to have a travel trailer park that would be limited to 9 RV spaces in the total 15.24 acres that they're talking about in this map.
That seems to be accurate, yes.
And that whether or not it has one or two entrances, we don't know for sure, but that they could not have more than two permanent buildings on that entire 15.24 acres.
Right.
Is that right?
Yes.
I just wanted to clarify that and to,
Josh, that's per parcel, right?
Can you repeat the question for me?
He asked if they can't have more than two permanent residents on the entire 15-acre site. Is that all those combined PIN numbers that make up the 15 acres?
That would be on that revised plat that you looked at.
Okay.
And that two structural limitation comes as both part of the county's plan unit development standards, which doesn't allow more than two residences on a single piece of property, as well as the county's manufactured home standards, which would not allow more than two manufactured homes, which would cause it to be a park. So in
Are
order
they
to put
recombining these parcels?
there is a recombination that
Okay,
takes place.
thank you. That was my question.
so what do you conclude from that, Stevens?
That they can only put two permanent residents on the
Yes.
site that has the travel trailer.
The rest have to be seasonal. They have to be there and then removed.
For the entire site?
Yes.
The entire 15 acres?
Yes.
And my only other question is, how much additional land, if it pertains to, do you own, Mr. Ward?
Please address your remarks up here, sir.
Here, we'll have them answered later.
Okay, I'm just curious what other land there is developable by other standards. You've clarified my questions. Thank you.
And I will say, pertaining to that question, should they try to move forward with additional residences, they would have to come back before the board for a further conditional use permit or manufactured home permit of some sort. So,
Okay, so we're really saying two permanent residents on this whole site and application for 9.
correct.
Does everyone have that same understanding?
For people with a vested interest as neighbors, et cetera, how is this partiality of, that they have to be there for a certain amount of time and not there, how is that monitored?
That's monitored throughout the county on a complaint-driven basis.
Complaint-driven basis, okay.
As most of our zoning ordinances.
Okay. So no call, nothing happens. It's call-based.
Correct. They are required to pull an electrical permit, and it's documented in the electrical permit at the time. To my knowledge, we've really only had one problem with it, and that was with a travel trailer that was installed on a residential site that wasn't allowed at all. So.
Okay.
Just a note about the survey. They've recorded the survey in the Register of Deeds, but until they tell tax mapping to actually go ahead and activate it, it'll remain those different parcels.
Okay, and will this be regularly monitored so that we know they will be in compliance?
It'll be monitored under the same standards that we monitor any travel trailer park. So all of our ordinances are complaint-driven. We don't do routine monitoring of any type of site.
It appears that there have been maybe ventures in the past that aren't quite compliant. Is that a reasonable understanding?
Well, I mean, it seems like to me that there was no zoning, so if they used it for something else, it wasn't necessarily an illegal use. Now, you might have had some police ordinances, like a noise ordinance or something like that has been violated, but that's a separate issue.
Yeah, that's out of our purview, yeah.
More or less, yes.
Okay.
Will permits only allow 9 electrical hookups?
It'll be us that signs off on it. Once they apply for the electrical permit, anytime you apply for an electrical permit that's going to be used for RV service or travel trailer service, they're sent out to the planning department, and then we'll check that against our files to find out how many have been permitted for the site to make sure they don't exceed that 9.
And then if they ran a drop cord to a few extras, that would be complaint driven?
That would be complaint driven, and typically, we have had that issue arise, but it's a pretty quick fix.
And also, if you do issue a conditional use permit, anything that they violate of the conditional use permit is subject to a revocation of that permit. So let's say they try to put on more trailers, they try to, they don't meet other compliance standards, it's quite possible that their permit could be revoked. So, there will be standards in place that they have to abide by.
Okay, do the applicants, do you completely understand that?
Yes, and as to the speaker, the loudspeaker, that doesn't have anything to do with the travel trailer park.
And listen, did you have additional comments for a little bit a while ago? Why don't you come forward where you can be recorded?
Mr. Thigpen, he was, concerned about the loudspeaker, and
Please get closer to the mic so they can.
it doesn't, the travel trailer park doesn't have anything to do with that. That's separate. It's owned by Fay Ward, which is his mother, and my other uncle runs that. So it doesn't have anything to do with Robert Ward. He will not have any speakers.
It's not on the land?
No, it's on, this section is separate from
That section.
that section.
Okay, that's an important distinction. How do you mean that?
So,
All right. Any other comments?
But isn't that whole thing part of the 15 acres that you're
I'm sorry?
redefining?
no, it's not. The fishing lake is not a part of it.
No, but it's walking distance.
Sorry.
Hold on, can we just have one person talk at a time
Right.
and have that person, and let the chair will address you before you can speak? Thank you.
All right. Okay. Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, it seems to me then that the map that was on the back of the announcement of this meeting is inaccurate because it points to subject property pretty much right over the top of that lake.
As stated in my opening remarks, at the time of application, the revised plat had not yet been presented or filed, so we noticed as if all those pins were in common ownership. The subject property under discussion right now is the revised plat that you have before you. So in order to meet the legal requirements, we sent the notice out as broadly as possible, but it would just be the revised plat that would be subject to this permit.
Okay, as a board, we believe that we are looking at the revised, correct plat.
Yes. No, I don't know if you have the plat,
Yeah,
sir.
you-
I don't think that these were handed out, but if anybody wants to come up and take a gander at this before we can move forward, feel free. Do you want to possibly take like a 5-minute recess and let everybody look at that?
Good idea. All right, let's take a 5-minute recess here.
We're put in a position to both know that and ignore that, and at the same time protect the other people's rights while ignoring the fact that there's been non-compliance. Am I wrong? Is that how you're feeling?
Well,
I'm kind of feeling kind of
I guess this was talked about before the new ordinance was in.
Right.
And that's why I raised.
with, once they have conditional use, that is so they can go further in the process than that. If they get to the point of actually putting together a plan of the structures and how it's going to be laid out, there could be lighting concerns then we could deal with it, but it's too abstract to come up with any provisions about lighting until we know what's going to go on.
I mean, my recommendation is that this one is not so much on the site plan, just given
Yes.
the nature of a temporary use and the fact that even if they were to document it clearly, it's a mobile vehicle. It can move out, as far around as an extension cord can go.
That's true.
As the lighting, or as the application states, they're not installing any additional lighting in conjunction with this. So
Right.
we would hold them to what the application states.
So therefore, if they wanted to do something like that, that would be a whole new plan if they come back again.
They would need to file an amendment to the existing conditional. So any changes that they wanted to do to this property would need to be approved. It would need to be an amendment to the existing conditional use permit.
Okay.
All right.
Because it splits right
If
here.
you want to,
Is it still open for discussion?
we're still in open session, yes. Please come forward.
That's why it does have two entrances. Because unless this is one way.
It's clear that it's clear that it's not clear. And this is what concerns me greatly. Now I'm understanding from Ms. Stanley that there will be a new entrance coming off of Davidson Road, which is now barricaded and not open for travel. And that will be adjoining the Davidson Hill subdivision. And, there just seems to be, I can understand we've got a little bit of that chicken and egg dilemma. You've got to know you can do something and then investigate further. But there's too many things to investigate that I'm hearing about, from floodplain issues to water and sewer issues to electrical permit issues and it just seems to me like you were opening the door to turn this into a large commercial operation. And that's my concern.
And let me try, as far as I understand, all we're dealing with is the conditional use. Everything else that you're talking about are permits, et cetera, that they'll have to get later on. If we say they have we say that they have a conditional use to go forward, the other things are expenses. They will go there. Now, let's say that they go forward and they don't meet the requirements for the floodplain. They can't move on. All we would do is say that, according to conditional use, they now can go forward and check in all of these other aspects.
But you're not able to put conditions on your conditional use without knowing what things are going to be.
But our purview isn't floodplain.
No, but
all we do is sign off on that
even
if
the
it's been
simple
done.
thing of an entrance, we're now finding out is different than what was anticipated. I'm just saying that the information provided, it's not only started off confusing, and some of the other neighbors now are out of the loop on what is proposed. I mean, none of them knew that that there's going to be a new entrance into the development. So I'm saying that there's not been proper public notice to everybody else of what's going on, and it needs to be clear.
Josh?
Any response to the...
To answer that question, if the board can find that they have satisfactory ingress and egress with that first entrance, then that's not an issue. In terms of other entrances to and from the property, since there are other uses on the property, I'm not sure that it would directly tie into this permit. They just need to satisfy ingress and egress. Additional and fire marshals requirements, additional entrances and exits, I'm not sure would fall under the purview of this application, and Kurt may be able to clarify that more.
Yeah, I once again, we have more of these, what comes first, the chicken thing. What I was going to do is I was going to read you all what the standards were, the general standards for any conditional use, and then there are a couple special ones for a travel trailer park. Would you like me to read those to you at this point in time? All right. One of the conditions that you have to make a finding on is that there's satisfactory ingress and egress to the property and the proposed structures thereon, with particular reference to automotive and pedestrian safety and convenience, traffic flow, and control. Okay, so ideally you'd be looking at how are people going to get to and from this property? Are we going to be creating a traffic hazard, anything like that? All right. Another thing that we have to do, provisions for off-street parking and loading where required, with particular attention to items in section 78-658, the economic noise, glare, and odor effects of the conditional use on adjoining property owners in the area. Okay? So those are things that you take into consider in granting or denying it. And that information has to be based on the record, sufficient evidence, if that is. Okay, number 3, adequate and proper utilities with reference to location, availability, and compatibility. Number 4, buffering with reference to type, location, and dimensions. Signs, if any, and proposed exterior lighting with reference to glare, traffic safety, economic effect, and compatibility and harmony with the properties in the district. Playgrounds, open spaces, yards, landscaping, access ways, and pedestrian ways with reference to location, size, and suitability. Buildings and structures with reference to location, size, and use. Hours of operation with particular reference to protecting and maintaining the character of the neighborhood. All right, those are the general standards, so you need to make findings as to whether the application as presented here today has met those findings. In addition, there's 3 other requirements for a travel trailer park. Those are: the Board of Adjustment may require buffering consisting of evergreen trees or shrubs located along the side and rear lot lines, but shall not extend beyond the established setback along any street. Such buffer strip shall not be less than be less than 4 feet in width and shall be composed of trees or shrubs of a type, which maturity shall be not less than 6 feet in height. This planning requirement may be modified by the Board of Adjustment where adequate buffering exists in the form of vegetation and terrain. Plans and accompanying documentation to ensure that the water and sewer systems proposed for the travel trailer park have been approved by appropriate local and state agencies. And 3rd, trailers shall be separated from each other and from other structures by at least 10 feet.
And just for the board's information, you do have his application and then his answers to those questions in the application regarding the standards for a conditional use permit.
All right. Do you feel we have enough information to make this?
For a conditional use.
I would, if I may, I don't think we've ever closed the public hearing.
Well, that's just a question here before in case we want an additional response from me. Is there other information that we can glean from this group of folk?
No.
All right.
Why don't you see if there's more public comment first?
Is there any more public comment? Anyone else? Yes, sir. Please come forward.
This references 2 entrances, and they were just saying.
Now, where is that coming from? Sir, you've been sworn in?
No, not him.
Okay, and your name, please?
My name is Diaz.
Okay. Do you solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
Okay. Please go ahead.
Okay. I own property and I live in that property, and it's joining the Ward's property.
Okay.
I have about 3 acres of land. The only thing that separates us is a fence.
Pardon me, is a what?
Fence.
Fence, okay.
From what Mr. Tippin said about the noise, he's right. The lake does create a lot of noise. And in fact, there's not only one lake, there's 3 lakes on their property. Houses, there are several houses already there, trailers. They got a store. eating establishment. So I don't know what else they can do, you know. And like I said, my biggest concern too is the traffic. There's no entrance to that piece of land. There's a road there, yes, but it's not state maintained. It's a right of way. And the reason I know is because it goes along all my property down to the lakes. There's another entrance, like they said, by the river, but they got it a gate there and it's padlocked. So they have no access to it. And like I say, I've been living there for the last 50 years, I guess. And nothing has ever been done to improve the land or anything like that.
But it's our understanding that what they're doing is in compliance now, as far as we are concerned as a body.
In terms of everything outside of the travel trailer park that's under discussion,
Yes.
correct.
Yeah.
I've not received any complaints or investigated any complaints, but my knowledge is that the operation of the site existed prior to the zoning ordinance.
Right.
So it would be a legal non-conforming use.
Right. Okay.
All right. Any further comment?
No, I believe that'll do it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Could I ask you, where is your property, sir?
It's on Springdale Road.
On Springdale?
Yeah. It's at the entrance from Davidson Road.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. See if there's anyone else.
Okay. Is there anyone else who would like to speak? Yes, please come forward. You can be dismissed, sir.
The three lakes that Mr. Diaz is speaking of, that property, the third lake, doesn't even belong to us. It's separate. Someone else owns that, so we have nothing to do with that. And again, the noise is not, it's a separate piece of property. It's not coming from what he's proposing to do.
Okay.
We apologize for not knowing that these are separate operations and separate properties, but insofar as the notice that all of us surrounding neighbors received, it is. And that's all we had to go on, so.
I understand.
Okay.
If it's something different, let's clarify that.
There is a bit of confusion here, yes.
My name's Anthony Smith. I actually
You
have.
sworn before?
I was not.
Okay. Do you solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do. My name's Anthony Smith, S-M-I-T-H, and I am the owner of that third property that has a pond on it. It is on my property. It is not used as a fishing tournament. It's just my personal use. It's in my backyard. And my concern with the rezoning is I do understand right now that the wards, I believe, take care of the right-of-way on Springdale Road. They take care of, it's a gravel road, so obviously it needs to be scraped from time to time, and they do a pretty good job of taking care of that and making sure that it's not real eat up with potholes. But if this were to pass, we're talking about larger vehicles driving down that road if Springdale Road is the road that they're going to come in on. And I don't know who would be the one to make that
Termination.
to make that call, because the way they're wanting to rezone it, you're going to have one person owning Springdale Road, and you'll have, well, it actually might be the same person. It's I think Patricia Ward, the trustee. The way that they're looking at rezoning that, she would be the owner of the two right-of-ways to this area. So should that be her responsibility to maintain those roads?
That's
since
not-
they're not public roads?
That's not in our purview to decide.
That's not something that we can talk about.
All right.
My only other concern would be, and I'm all for them making some extra money in these economic times, and I understand that, and I'm all for that. I am a little concerned and I'm hesitant to want to allow this to happen, only because my property is adjacent to this property, and I'm getting ready to have my 5th kid, and it's just difficult having a constant turnover of individuals that you don't know. I will have neighbors who continually change 180 days, if they stay 180 days. And I would just ask you to think about that if you had small children. That's all.
Okay. Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to speak? Again?
As he was asking about the road being maintained, Robert would still maintain the road just like he always has. And as far as the neighbors changing, it's a mobile home park on his side. His property is not with what Robert Ward's proposing to do. It's not connected. So there's a mobile home park that's on the side that he's located. Your renters and tenants change there all the time also.
Are you talking about the, it says on this map, Patricia Roberts, trustee.
Mhm.
Is that the mobile home park you're talking about?
Mm-hmm.
Josh?
And that's separate?
Yes, it's separate.
That mobile home park's part of this 15 acres.
No, ma'am.
No, ma'am. It's subdivided off.
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay, so it is.
Yeah, I've looked at that pretty extensively. It's barely there, but
Okay.
it's hard to see.
Okay.
Thank you.
It looks like maybe 5 mobile homes or 6 on that property, something like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
Last call. Anyone else who wants to speak?
Go ahead. Don't give him too much time.
Okay, I'm going to close the public hearing at this time.
Mr. Chairman, before you start your deliberations, I just did want to clarify something about the completeness of the application and to allow the members of the board to understand how that process works. When an applicant comes before us, what we check the application for is we give it a general review regarding the answers to make sure that they've addressed the questions at hand. Occasionally, the board will need additional information, which is the reason that we have the public hearing. But with respect to the application, when we sit down with the applicant, as I sat down with Ms. Stanley, we look at any information that they don't have and if that's something that we can waive as being part of the application. For this particular application, the only requirements that we did waive in terms of information submittal pertain to things that are designed for a more intense scale commercial property because we use the same conditional use permit across the board. So just reviewing that, the only real omission is the documentation for application for stormwater permits and things of that nature. But I have been in communication with Mike Goodson. He's aware of the issue, and he felt okay advancing this part of the process forward just because there is an expenditure there, similar to Ms. Barclow's application.
Josh, on Part D of this A through J, on the back sheet of this,
Yes.
is that questions that you have asked Ms. Stanley and answered? I mean, where did that information come from?
That was submitted by the applicant. It's those questions that are part of that application, again, which are the standards for a conditional
Okay.
use.
So that is their answers.
Those are
Yes.
that is their answer to how they meet the standards for a conditional use permit.
And you are free to amend if you don't feel that as the findings of fact. And that's a recommendation. But you all have the right to change whatever you want.
Right.
The draft worksheet that I work up for you guys for the findings of fact is based on what they submit to us as their answers to why they meet the conditions for a conditional use permit.
Yes.
I understand.
I have a question here. Part D, C, there are 2 entrances to the park. There will be no change to traffic flow. Now, we're hearing one entrance out. Are we dealing with one entrance? or
I
two?
would ask the applicant to come up and explain that to the board.
Yeah, I'm
If you would, please, because there's been testimony on both cases here this morning, I believe.
What is the question?
Where are your entrances?
In your submission to the board, it says there are 2 entrances into the park and there will be no change to traffic flow. Is that correct?
Yeah. The first entrance is off of Davison Road. Well, they're both off of Davison Road, but Springdale is the main entrance that everyone uses right now. The other entrance is down Davison Road, and there's a gate. It's locked. And if it needs to be opened, it can be opened or it can stay locked, whichever.
But there are indeed 2 entrances.
There is 2 entrances.
How far apart are these? I mean, I don't see them on this map. I just don't see how
You
you.
want me to look and see if I can show you?
Sure.
Circle where the entrance is. It's here.
This is. It looks like it comes in right here.
You just circle. And I would put
This
it
is
where-
the main entrance.
This is your property. Whose property is that?
My grandmother's.
So your entrance to the property, that's going to be there.
It's right here. This is the back side of her property. This is the entrance into. You want me to put entrance right here?
Yeah.
The main entrance. And this one here is gated.
And whose gate?
Gated.
Whose gate is it?
It's my,
Okay.
Okay.
Oh, okay, so I'm backwards.
Mr. Chair.
Come in there. That's great.
Are we opening up for comments on the board?
Yes, we are. I've closed the public hearing.
Good.
Yes, we have comments.
It appears quite obvious to me that this application suffers from a lack of design. We're being asked to piece together entrances. We're asked to look at hand-drawn rectangles on a non-scaled aerial photograph, asked to extrapolate their location outside the floodway but inside a right-of-way with no scale. We're asked to consider issues of land use and the related engineering with regard to buffering and public safety and egress, and a lot of these things are outside of our review jurisdiction. But much of what we're asked to approve here in terms of land use has no design. The requirements that were outlined are in black and white in the ordinance, and us to adopt a set of conditions to an approval should not replace design. You know, in other words, if we're asked to put in a condition about berming for sound or landscape buffering or whatever for light control and so forth, that's putting the burden of design on us, and in lieu of the owner, the applicant, performing his due diligence and perhaps spending some money to submit something to us that is designed and that we can understand, that we don't have to piece together from a desk full of documents here. I feel like I understand that the applicants want to minimize their investment before they come before us, but we really don't have anything except what you can download on GIS maps and a response to the questionnaire. We don't have really any engineering or any design, and to further complicate things, the boundary of this application has changed since the public notice was made and today's meeting. So there's understandably some confusion among the members of this audience as to really what are the boundaries. It's kind of a under-designed application, and it's not really. I don't feel like it's our purpose here to take the place of design, and of engineering. And with that being said, I think, it's on the surface an approvable project, but it's underdocumented, in my opinion. And we have the benefit of no engineering or design to look at to measure its viability.
And similarly, that's what I was saying before, is that, oftentimes I'm starting to get some confusion about where we are in the chain. Many times we've had things come before us and we've sat the kind of plan where we can look at it and say, okay, we need a buffer here, we need to do lighting here. This is just seeming like we're the starting point, and then they'll go further. Well, then, if that's the case, then as I said, then there must be some where they come back with us with an actual design. But if, and I'm leaning more towards John, if part of what we're supposed to, part of our task is, what you read out, we don't have the information to perform that task. We don't have the information to talk about buffers or talk about, because we don't have that kind of a plan where we can actually look at and say, what is the buffer that is currently there after the land has been prepared for its current usage. You know what I mean? And so it just seems, I agree with John, that I feel, I don't feel I have enough information to understand or advocate for the builders or for the residents and form, to make sure that everyone's needs are being met. I just feel I'm kind of lacking in clarity.
Right. You have a comment, Mr.?
If that is a feeling, a majority feeling of, because obviously, sort of how this works is that you all are to review the application as given to you.
Yes.
I would say that if there's a sentiment on the board that you don't have enough information, if the board could somehow articulate to the applicant
what they need,
what you would like to see, and then if they consent, because they ultimately control whether they want you to vote on this or not.
Right.
And then if they would consent to a continuance, you could continue this to another meeting date. But what I just want to be sure of is that the board is able to tell them exactly what they need or what you want to see, so that they can come back with something that works better for you.
Can you articulate all this stuff?
Well, we get applications all the time where there's an engineer comes in and he's schematically designed a subdivision and he's showing dimensions between blocks of buildings or trailers or whatever, and a rough area indicating a buffer. And there's not a full-blown set of construction documents. It's a schematic design showing us dimensional
intended use,
showing us what the ordinance calls for in terms of dimensional minimums or maximums.
So do you need an actual site plan
That would be most helpful.
that shows the boundary of the property? And I don't know, you might want to take this down, ma'am. But do you want that to be done by a licensed surveyor? Can they I mean, that's kind of where you're getting into. Do you want to see something that's actually been engineered, or can they, if they draw it out to the best of their abilities and present that?
I think that for what they're asking, they probably just need to spend a little bit of money on landscape architecture and have an actual site plan done.
A site plan done by
with buffers and showing the actual footprints of.
We're kind of dancing around. What we need is a plan. It doesn't have to be a full-blown,
It doesn't have to be a sealed
but it
drawing,
has to be a plan so we know what you want to do, because I think you can sense there's confusion in the members' minds here, and certainly in mine, specifically what you want to do.
So on that plan, you want to see the entrances.
Yes.
You want to see where
Site
the
boundaries,
proposed locations of where the RVs are going to be located.
Yes.
Any
Parking area.
Parking area.
Buffer.
and specifically
buffers.
what's there right now.
Okay.
I think utilities ought to be included on that. There's already an easement, a utility easement indicated on this survey,
Sure.
but the location of hookups and the routing of existing sewer lines and septic tank lines and that kind of thing.
It is my understanding, and Josh, correct me if I'm wrong, but they don't have that yet in terms of they haven't actually gone to the point where they're running. They have sewer and water to their property, but they haven't gone. How is that going to be they haven't, I don't think the design's that.
I think the response that you referred to, David, said there was 3/4 inch lines and certain size breakers and 6-inch sewage septic lines. There's something on site, but we don't know where. We don't know the extent. Is it to each camper site or not? again, that may not be in our area of jurisdiction, but there's, all we really have in the way of design are these 9 rectangles, kind of hand-drawn, without scale, without dimension, without, and as Lisa perceptively pointed out, there very well may not be enough room to get 9 in here between the edge of the floodway that's indicated on this plan.
Right, yeah.
And the edge of the 30-foot sanitary sewer easement. But we don't know. I mean, these hand-drawn rectangles are generally in the area of that buildable area, but we don't know.
If they want to go ahead and get a surveyor to meet the needs that you have, and
Yes.
knock me out too, to have the surveyor go on site, stake it, and then also on the plan that you get the surveyor to help you with, and you can use the same one that's already been out there and has those calls already. They can locate it on site physically, showing where the floodway is, and then on the plans that are submitted to this board also show that those lots are going to be outside the floodway.
And that will save you money.
Yeah, but you may want to touch base with me when you're getting the surveyor to do that, so that they get all my requirements and this board's requirements on one plan.
Okay. The other element to this is that it's fair for any opponents to this idea to have access to accurate application information, and so if this engineering is, or this design work is being done and the application is resubmitted, then the neighboring folks have the benefit of reviewing information and formulating their opinion based on current data.
This information is available to members of the public, and I say that because it was actually emailed to members of the public and discussed at length with members of the public. The confusion in PIN numbers falls solely on our department, and that's due to legal requirements. We did not want to further extenuate the circumstances of the applicant by not notifying enough people, and we felt that we had to do that without that plat being activated. But this information is available to members of the public.
Okay, if the board were to decide or to continue this hearing.
Just for a point of order, I would think that it would be up to the applicant
If they want to continue.
to request a continuance, and then the question would be sort of time frame where
Right.
if I would suggest at least 60 days or at least 2 meetings, so that would give you sufficient time to get this stuff done. I don't know if you can get it all done in 30 days or 90, whatever you feel is appropriate, but definitely give yourself enough time to get this done. And then so that then the people in the audience will know of a date certain when this will be heard, and then they can come back and look so they know when to be paying attention. So we don't then go into the cost of having to re-advertise also.
Right.
So,
Ma'am, did you get your list?
Yeah, if we were to ask for 60 days and it was finished before 60 days, would that?
We only meet.
I think what we're trying to do
meet
is
once a
continue
month.
this to a date certain.
Okay.
So that everybody in the audience, everybody knows when we're going to hear this again, so that we don't have to re-advertise. If you don't do it to a date certain, you may have to reapply. So I'm trying to save you the money where you're amending your application as opposed to submitting a new one.
Okay.
Yeah,
And
but-
your list of things to include in this design is right in the ordinance. If the use you're going for calls for certain dimensional buffers or separation between buildings or density or whatever, then that's your to-do list basically.
Okay.
We couldn't possibly tell you verbally all the things that you need to do.
Right.
We may leave something out. So I would just consult the ordinance and go by that. And then any other information that you feel clarifies your design intent, that makes it easier for us to know and understand what your intentions are. We can't know from this application.
And I will clarify, one of the issues that we're going to have with the application is, since the ordinance doesn't specify design parameters for the actual spaces themselves, just spacing requirements, the boxes that you see on the application are going to show the same thing, that we're trying to show the approximate location of the electrical hookup and not the RV itself, since that is mobile.
Right.
Yeah, and we don't want to
But
set a parameter.
They have in hand they know what they want to put down there.
Correct.
So
But
then
we-
you can extrapolate that and make the data come out.
Correct.
There,
All right.
there, we took a look at, on this map, maybe you can see my hatching, but there's an edge of that 30-foot sanitary sewer easement, and then there's this edge of this floodway, and so you can see that area tapers in depth. So travel trailers over here may be limited to 12 feet or 16 feet. I don't know what dimensions these travel trailers come in, but obviously in this area here, the deepest trailer, has room to be placed. But the point being that on the tapered ends of this building area, it's likely if someone places a travel trailer longer than is allowed, that trailer may be encroaching on the floodway. And I don't know if that's an enforceable thing, since it's a transient.
Very, very enforceable.
So do we? So my point is our approval contingent on putting a fence along that line, or flags, or something that says, okay, you can't back a travel trailer any deeper than this dimension?
The flood.
So I would be interested in hearing what your solution is to creating that line. Is it a row of trees, or that's what I mean by design. We can't. We're not up here to design. Right. You come to us with ideas, and we'll see if it's approved. But if that edge needs to be maintained, then I think that's something I think would be very important to see. I agree. On the plan.
And again, referring to this is more to clarify for the applicant. With respect to that 30-foot sanitary sewer easement, I'm not sure that there's very much that we could do to prevent encroachment, or if we would really be bothered by that at all. One, it's not in the planning department's purview, and two, these are transient uses where it could be moved in order to access that easement. Right. So that does give them extra property to use.
So they can park RVs in the sewer easement.
That would be between the owners of the property and MSD.
Right.
Okay.
I would like
But you
to
would
ask
have to have an
Cynthia
MSD permit.
question. Cynthia, the floodway, can they park or they can't even park?
No, our ordinance, now it changed in 2010. Before you had to do a no-rise study like the Dennisons had to do, because the floodway for there in 96 was different than it is now. Now their unit is outside the floodway. So the floodway is going to change. It's not static. And what was your question again, David?
Whether they could park inside the floodway.
No, our ordinance changed in 2010. No habitable structures, including anything where someone works, sleeps, lives, can be approved in the floodway.
It sounds like the only really professional service she needs to hire, other than just some good mapping, would be someone to mark that floodway line on the ground.
Yes.
And show it on a map.
The suggestion for a row of trees is excellent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. And you're representing the applicant, right?
Yes.
So I guess, ma'am, the next step would be would you like to request a continuance?
Yes.
What
Okay.
time frame do you feel you need? 2 months, 3 months?
60 days, I guess.
60 days? Okay. Realize, make yourself safe, because if you go 60 days and you're not ready, then you may have to reapply again.
Just to note, if you would like, she needs to make sure if you would like those, whatever her new application in material, to be available to the public. She needs to submit that at least a week, if not 2 weeks, before the actual date of the hearing.
Okay, got that?
Yeah. Well,
So that gives
it
her
would be
45
prudent on her
days to
part
get
to
the
ask for
materials.
90
Right.
days and then come in at the next open.
So 90 days would put us at April 11th, and 30 days prior to the hearing would be March 12th.
In order to save everybody a lot of hassle, I would recommend that you have a date certain.
A date
that,
certain.
that you set
All
it
right.
for a certain date, because if not, you're going to run into notice provision, you're going to run into notice questions for the public, and I think you're better off saying we're going to do it on this date.
The 60 days is going to put.
That's tougher because she's
we're
really.
talking
So if it's 60 days, she's theoretically going to have 45 days to get her plans together and get them to us. So if it's 90 days, technically she'll have 75 days to get her plans together.
90 days.
Okay, 90 days.
Okay, that gives you, because you have to meet our meeting dates too.
Right.
That gets in there as another variable, see?
Okay, so the board has a request from the applicant to continue this till what's the date?
The April 11th, 2012 meeting.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
I just agreed to that as the chairman, or do we have to vote
I think
on
you
that?
need to have a motion and vote on it.
Okay, would someone move?
I'll make a motion to approve that.
Okay, is there a second to that motion?
Wait, what was the?
I'll make a motion to continue this till April 11th,
April
2012.
meeting, yes.
To leave the hearing open and continue it until the April 11th meeting.
Okay,
I'll second.
okay. And before we close this hearing, if you testify today, will you raise your hand? Not there. Answer this question. Is the information you provided to the board true and accurate to the best of your knowledge and belief? Please signify by saying yes or aye.
Yes.
Okay.
And before we move on, Mr. Chair, I will say that if any of the individuals that are here today would like to meet with members of planning staff, or if there would like to be some type of meeting facilitated between Ms. Stanley and planning staff and whoever has questions, we're more than happy to do that so that it doesn't have to happen at the next Board of Adjustment meeting. That way, if there are adjustments or additional information you can bring in, we can take care of that prior to coming in here next time. So please feel free to exercise that.
Okay. This hearing will be continued.
Did you vote?
Oh.
Yes. Didn't I? Oh, it's all in favor.
All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The motion carried. Now you know why we keep an attorney in the room, right?
Okay, so we still have one more.
All right. This hearing, it will be continued. Do you have the exact date there on?
11th.
April 11th, 2012.
At noon.
At noon, yes.
So we have one more?
We have one more. Okay. Everyone settled here, so we can go on with the third hearing here. Okay, Josh.
Okay, yeah, sure.
Let me sort through my file.
It's a mess here.
All right, the next application you have before you is Mr. Larry Rich. He has applied for a variance on behalf of Christopher Cradduck for a variance from the setback requirements of 78-642. This is on tax lot 9633513754 at 608 Vista Falls Road. I will point out to the members of the board that the proposed findings of fact, the applicant's name is incorrect. It needs to be Mr. Larry Rich on that. I'll also provide a little bit of background before the applicant comes up. This is in a subdivision that was approved prior to zoning. I believe the date on the original subdivision plat was 2002. And on that original subdivision plat, the setbacks of the subdivision were shown. Because that subdivision was platted so long ago and no building permit was pulled since that subdivision was platted, the applicant's vested rights terminated after 2 years, and that's per state statute. So they're asking for a variance that closer aligns them to the High Vista setbacks, and these setbacks are setbacks which are typically observable in the neighborhood. This is the first house that I'm aware of in the subdivision that has been permitted since zoning was reinstated in Buncombe County. And the subdivision is actually split, as you can see on the map, between Henderson County and Buncombe County. So it creates a lot of confusion as to what setbacks are applicable in that particular property.
Okay.
Okay, Mr. Rich?
Yes, sir.
Or Mr. Davis? There's no extra charge for the name change. Okay. Josh, were you finished?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I guess the only thing I would offer in addition to what Josh has said is that we designed the house, made it fit onto the, it's a relatively small lot. We made the house fit onto the high vista setbacks, came to zoning to get the approval as part of the building permit process and found out, uh-oh, we weren't in compliance. So we went back and literally redesigned the house and got everything, the main body of the house and everything back into compliance. And in fact, because of the irregularity of the lot, we actually had to move it forward a little bit to violate high vista setbacks, which they've agreed to. We are in compliance with the front setbacks. We're in compliance with the side setbacks as it relates to Buncombe County as far as the 10-foot setback is concerned. The issue is a corner of the rear deck that we couldn't make it fit. Okay. And I certainly think the homeowner has gone to a great extent to try to come into compliance with your setbacks. The other thing I would say is, and it may not be relevant, but at High Vista, basically they look at foundation only. And when we come to Buncombe County, we look at not only foundation, but decks, porches, things like that. And literally all the other homes around it that are in Buncombe County were subject to the High Vista setbacks. Right. So it just was a little bit of confusion. And literally we didn't know, nor did High Vista know of this provision until this came up. So.
And as a further bit of clarification, Buncombe County also measures its setbacks perpendicular from the structure, starting at the structure, which is actually backwards to the way that most people measure them, and that's to account for strange lot geometries like this one. So you'll see the pin correction on the site plan that you have before you, and that's what that's about. It's just we measure our setbacks in a different way.
You don't measure it parallel to the property line?
No, because it makes a determination of what the front property line very difficult in some of the trapezoidal shapes that we see, especially with slopes.
But the setback lines are parallel to the property lines, right?
That's what they've depicted. We've actually corrected to account for our measurements.
So those hand-drawn corrections are yours, not
those? Yeah, that's staff's.
You measure in parallel to the house?
Correct. Or perpendicular to the house.
Perpendicular. Would that be perpendicular to the property line?
Only if the house is oriented toward the property line. And on this one, you can kind of see there's some slight difference on that,
some minor change
on the eastern property line.
This doesn't appear to be a significant change, I would say.
Sliver, isn't
it? Yeah, this is a small sliver there. I don't think there's a problem with that. Anything further you'd like to add?
I don't think so. I hope it's pretty clear that we tried to the drawings and things.
You were sworn the first time? I
was,
sort of remember.
Yes.
We had so many people today, I wanted to ensure that you were sworn. Okay. And any further questions before I close the hearing? And seeing no one else to testify, I will close the public hearing at this time. And Mr. Rich, is the information you presented to the board true and accurate to the best of your knowledge and belief?
Yes, sir.
All right. Is there a finding of fact among the crew here?
Let me read that. Mr. Chair, based on the evidence presented to this board, including the following exhibits, the petitioner's application, the submitted development plan, GIS maps, and finding of fact worksheet, I move that this board adopt the findings of fact 1 through 5, 6A,
6A, A through G.
And A through G.
Okay. Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Let the minutes show that it's unanimous approval. Okay, and how about action on the petition? Motion B.
Let me get to Mr. Chair, based on the foregoing findings of facts and for the reasons set forth herein, I move that the requested variance be approved.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, there's been a motion and a second to approve the variance. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, let the minutes show that there is unanimous approval. Is there any further business ahead of us? No.
Just to let you know, the update
That's the
Okay.
concrete.
That's for the written, the written certiorari. Now, we as a judge agency are required to produce the record.
Okay.
File briefs and our
Okay,
Nice.
well, if you will keep us informed on that interesting case, we would appreciate it. All right, I will call adjournment.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
13:52.
What?
Oh, I thought
Said
somebody.
thank you.
Oh.
Enjoy.
Well, this is interesting.
Next time.